Hello, assalamu alaikum. My name is Adnan Iqbal. I welcome all of you. And in this video, we are going to talk about the coronary veins or the venous drainage of the heart. Right. So in the last video, we have discussed about the coronary arteries, and the coronary arteries are those blood vessels of the heart which supply the oxygenated rich blood to the heart. And as you can see, this is the anterior surface of the heart, and this is the posterior surface of the heart. And on the external surface of the heart you can see these red and the blue lines. These red vessels are the coronary arteries, and these blue vessels are the coronary veins. And the oxygenated rich blood travels through these coronary arteries, and the deoxygenated blood travels through these coronary veins. So as you know that the heart is a pumping organ which supplies blood to all of the body, and heart works continuously. So the heart needs a constant and continuous supply of the oxygenated rich blood, so the heart works efficiently. So this oxygenated rich blood to the heart is traveled by these coronary arteries, and this oxygenated blood which travel through these coronary arteries, and after depositing the oxygen to the heart tissues, then this blood again becomes deoxygenated, and then this deoxygenated blood by travel through these coronary veins, and these coronary veins then drain this deoxygenated blood into the right atrium. So you know that the right atrium is a chamber of the heart which receives the deoxygenated blood from all of the body. So these coronary veins drains this deoxygenated blood which is collected into the different coronary veins from the different area of the heart. So these deoxygenated blood from the different coronary veins will all drain this deoxygenated blood into the right atrium. So now we will try to understand how the different coronary veins drain into the right atrium, how different coronary veins drains the deoxygenated blood into the right atrium, and what are the different coronary veins are present on the anterior surface of the heart and on the posterior surface of the heart, and how these different coronary veins combine or merge so that they can drain this deoxygenated blood into the right atrium. So now we will try to understand the different coronary veins which are present on the surface of the heart, and how these different coronary veins drain into the right atrium. So right now we are only discussing about the coronary veins. So we have only drawn the coronary veins on the surface of the heart. We have not drawn the coronary arteries. So this is the anterior surface of the heart, the surface of the heart which is facing the front of the body, and this is the posterior surface of the heart, the face of the heart which is facing the back of the body. So we can see the different veins on the anterior surface of the heart, and we can also see the different veins on the posterior surface of the heart. So if we look at the anterior surface diagram of the heart, the veins which are appearing darker blue in color, these are the veins which are present on the anterior surface, and the veins which are showing you the lighter in color, these are the veins which are present on the posterior surface of the heart. So therefore on the anterior surface diagram they are showing with the light in color because they are present on the posterior side of the heart. Similarly, if we look at the posterior surface diagram, the veins which are showing in darker in color, these are the coronary veins which are present on the posterior surface of the heart, and the veins which are showing you lighter in color, these are the coronary veins which are present on the anterior surface of the heart. So therefore on the posterior surface diagram they are showing you with the light in color. Now let's discuss about the different coronary veins which are present on the anterior surface and on the posterior surface. So first we will understand the coronary veins which are present on the anterior surface of the heart. So on the anterior surface of the heart we have the great, this you can see this vein This vein which is present on the anterior surface, that one is known as the great cardiac vein, also known as the anterior interventricular vein, because this vein is present on the anterior side and also on the interventricular sulcus. So therefore the great cardiac vein is also known as the anterior interventricular vein. So the great cardiac vein is present on the anterior side, and this is the great cardiac vein. Similarly, on the anterior surface of the heart, we have the right marginal vein. This is the right marginal vein, and also we have the small cardiac vein. This is the small cardiac vein. This one is the small cardiac vein. So this is the right marginal vein, and this is the small cardiac vein, and this is the great cardiac vein, also known as the anterior interventricular vein. These are present on the anterior surface of the heart. Also on the anterior surface of the heart, we have these two veins, these two coronary veins, which are known as the anterior cardiac veins. These are known as the anterior cardiac veins, and these are present on the right side of the ventricle, so therefore they are known as the anterior cardiac veins of the right ventricle. These two are the anterior cardiac veins. Similarly, on the posterior side, we also have different coronary veins, and the important coronary veins which are present on the posterior side of the heart, you can see this is this third one, this big coronary vein. This one is known as the middle cardiac vein, right? And the largest coronary vein which is present on the posterior surface of the heart, the largest coronary vein of the heart, that is known as the coronary sinus. So this is the coronary sinus. This is the largest vein of the heart, and that 8 number coronary vein, that is known as the posterior cardiac vein. This is also present on the posterior surface of the heart. So on the posterior surface of the heart, we have the middle cardiac vein. This long one is the middle cardiac vein, which is present on the posterior surface of the heart. This coronary sinus, which is the largest coronary vein of the heart, and this posterior cardiac vein, which is present left to the middle cardiac vein. So these are the important coronary veins which are present on the posterior surface of the heart. So the rule is the deoxygenated blood from different coronary veins first drain into the coronary sinus, which is the largest vessel of the heart, and then from the coronary sinus this deoxygenated blood goes into the right atrium, and the right atrium is the chamber of the heart which receives the deoxygenated blood from all of the body and also from the coronary veins. So it means that the right atrium is receiving the deoxygenated blood from the heart by the coronary sinus. But there are some coronary veins which are draining directly into the right atrium, and these coronary veins which are draining directly into the right atrium, these are the anterior cardiac veins. So these anterior cardiac veins are draining their deoxygenated blood directly into the right atrium, whereas the deoxygenated blood from the different coronary veins first drain their deoxygenated blood into the coronary sinus, and then from the coronary sinus this deoxygenated blood drains into the right atrium. So now we will try to understand that what are the different coronary veins which are merging into the coronary sinus. So the anterior cardiac vein, this is the anterior cardiac vein which is present on the anterior surface of the heart, and this anterior cardiac vein starts from the apex of the heart, and you can see the anterior cardiac vein, this is the left side of the heart and this is the right side of the heart, and you can see the anterior cardiac vein takes a turn to the left, and then it bends, and on the posterior surface of the heart you can see it becomes the part of the coronary sinus. Also, if you look at the posterior surface of the heart, this is the middle cardiac vein, and you can see the middle cardiac vein is merging into the coronary sinus. Also, we can see this is the posterior cardiac vein which is present on the posterior surface of the heart. The posterior cardiac vein is also merging directly into the coronary sinus. Also, we can see the small cardiac vein. This is small cardiac vein on the anterior surface of the heart, and the small cardiac vein bends, and you can see it bends and on the posterior surface of the heart, and then it becomes a part of the coronary sinus. The coronary sinus is receiving the deoxygenated blood from the anterior cardiac vein, or the anterior interventricular vein, or the great cardiac vein, from the middle cardiac vein, from the posterior cardiac vein, and from the small cardiac vein. So these are the veins which are draining directly into the coronary sinus, and their deoxygenated blood from the coronary sinus drains into the right atrium. Also, we can see that this is the right marginal vein. So in some people, the right marginal vein becomes a part of the small cardiac vein, and in some people the right marginal vein do not become the part of the small cardiac vein. So in people in which the right marginal vein become the part of the small cardiac vein, the deoxygenated blood from the right marginal vein goes into the small cardiac vein, and from the small cardiac vein into the coronary sinus, and from the coronary sinus into the right atrium. But in the people in which the right marginal vein not becoming the part of the small cardiac vein, so in that people the right marginal vein drains its deoxygenated blood directly into the right atrium. So the coronary sinus is receiving the deoxygenated blood from the great cardiac vein, or the anterior interventricular vein, the middle cardiac vein, the posterior cardiac vein, and the small cardiac vein, and in some people from the right marginal vein also. Also, there are very small cardiac veins which are present on the surface of the heart, and these very small cardiac veins, which are not drawn on this diagram, these very small cardiac veins which are present on the surface of the heart, that cardiac veins are known as the venae cordis minime, or the Thebesian veins. Now these Thebesian or the venae cordis minime, these veins do not drain their deoxygenated blood into either the coronary sinus, or they do not drain directly into the right atrium. Instead, their deoxygenated blood drain directly into the four chambers of the heart. So to sum up it all, the coronary veins drain the heart, and generally they travel with the coronary arteries, and the coronary sinus is the largest vein of the heart, situated in the left posterior coronary sulcus. The coronary sulcus is the groove which is present between the atriums and the ventricle, and the coronary sinus is 3 cm long and emptying directly into the right atrium. Its tributary means the rivers which are draining into the sea. So the tributaries of the coronary sinus are the great cardiac vein, which is present on the interventricular sulcus, and you know that the interventricular sulcus is the sulcus or the groove which is present between the ventricles. So therefore the great cardiac vein is also known as the anterior interventricular sulcus, because the great cardiac vein is present on the anterior side, so therefore it is also known as the anterior interventricular sulcus. or anterior interventricular vein, and the great cardiac vein turns into the left and enters the coronary sulcus and enters into the coronary sinus on the posterior surface, and left marginal veins typically merge with the great cardiac vein. So you can see that I have not illustrated you about the left marginal vein. So this is the left marginal vein, and you can see that the left marginal vein, it becomes the part of the great cardiac vein on the posterior surface, right? You can see that this left marginal vein is becoming the part of the great cardiac vein on the posterior surface of the heart, and then they both, the great cardiac vein and the left marginal vein, they merge and they become the part of the coronary sinus, and then the deoxygenated blood from the coronary sinus goes into the right atrium. So this is what it has been written in this line, that the left marginal vein typically merge with the great cardiac veins. The middle cardiac vein accompanies the posterior interventricular artery. The middle cardiac vein, this is the middle cardiac vein, and the veins are present with the arteries. So the middle cardiac vein is present along with the posterior interventricular artery, which we have discussed in the previous video. So the middle cardiac vein drains or merge directly into the coronary sinus. It joins the coronary sinus, which we have discussed previously. Posterior vein of the left ventricle also joins the coronary sinus. 3 or 4 anterior cardiac vein bypass the coronary sinus and drains directly into the right atrium. So the anterior cardiac vein, they bypasses the coronary sinus and they drain their deoxygenated blood directly into the right atrium. So the right atrium is receiving the deoxygenated blood by the coronary sinus and also directly by the anterior cardiac veins. And 60% deoxygenated blood received into the right atrium is by the coronary sinus and 40% by the anterior cardiac veins. Small cardiac veins travel through the posterior surface of the heart in the coronary sulcus. Coronary sulcus is the groove which is present between the atrium and the ventricle. So in that groove, the small cardiac veins travels and the coronary sinus also travel on that groove. So this is the groove which is known as the coronary sulcus. This is the groove which is present between the atrium and the ventricle. So the small cardiac vein travel on this groove and the coronary sinus also travel on this groove. So the small cardiac vein travels through the posterior surface of the heart and the coronary sulcus, and the small cardiac vein receives blood from one or more right marginal veins and join the right end of the coronary sinus, which we have discussed previously. On the posterior side of the heart, the great and the small cardiac vein merge with the coronary sinus, which empties into the right atrium. So a small cardiac vein, this is a small cardiac vein which is merging into the coronary sinus on the posterior surface of the heart, and this great cardiac vein which take turns to the left, and on the posterior surface you can see it is merging with the coronary sinus. So the small cardiac vein also merging into the coronary sinus and the great cardiac vein also merging into the coronary sinus. So this is what it has been written in this line, that the great and the small cardiac vein merge with the coronary sinus, which empties into the right atrium. About 20% of the deoxygenated blood flows directly into the heart cavities from the numerous Thebesian veins, which are also known as the venae cordis minime. So the Thebesian veins are the very small cardiac veins which are distributed all over the surface of the heart, and they are present predominantly on the right side of the heart. And you can know the reason why it is present predominantly on the right side of the heart, because the right side of the the right chambers of the heart receive the deoxygenated blood. So therefore the nature has given more amount of the Thebesian veins on the right surface of the heart and very few Thebesian veins on the left surface of the heart. So the deoxygenated blood, around 20% of the deoxygenated blood drains directly into the chambers of the heart. So the venous deoxygenated drainage of the heart is by the coronary sinus, the anterior cardiac veins, and by the vena cavae minima or the Thebesian veins. And the 80% of the deoxygenated blood is drained into the right atrium from the heart, and in that 80%, 60% of the deoxygenated blood received into the right atrium by the coronary sinus and 40% by the anterior cardiac veins. And 20% of the deoxygenated blood drains directly into the cardiac chambers by the vena cavae minima or the Thebesian veins, which are very small cardiac veins. So this is how the coronary veins drain the deoxygenated blood from the heart. Thank you very much.